Hello everyone and welcome back to my The Young and Restless 24 YouTube channel. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Before we start, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Claire arrives at Crimson Lights and joins Kyle. She hands him a gift to apologize for the way her forefather treated him last night. Kyle opens the box, it's Observance Kids. She tells him Victor's examens aren't warranted. He loves them and kisses her. Claire feels bad about talking him into regale, given it's egregious now that Victor wouldn't give them a chance. Kyle didn't anticipate it. The facade was for her benefit last night. Claire says it didn't work. She complains that indeed Nikki couldn't convert him. Kyle anticipated it, he advised her that he hates his father and the Abbott family. It's trickled down to him. Kyle vows he wouldn't scarify him off, but Victor is grim. He'll turn on the pressure until she eventually throws up her hands and gives in. Victor welcomes Lily into the estate, and she muses, "So, you said you had information about Damien Kane?" Victor tells her he'd a gradational rise in the business world. One might call it a late success. He's an intriguing fellow, but a serious chap. He hopes the information he gives her will ease the pressure between them. Lily wants to hear the word first. Victor tells her about the two companies he owns. He came to Los Angeles times agone. Without means. Lily asks how he erected the companies. Victor says he didn't make them, he took them over. She asks, with what means? Victor replies, that's the riddle. Lily pouts, so, Damien Kane took over two successful companies with no plutocrat? Victor says he was granted power on paper. The real proprietor is Aristotle Dumas. Lily recalls that the author of The Count of Monte Cristo was Alexander Dumas. Victor says Damien runs the companies through a pot called Arabesque. Victor explains that this Dumas is always ahead of the oscillations in the request. Either he's a brilliant businessman or he's up to some suspicious conditioning. Lily thanks Victor for answering her questions, although she feels like she knows lower about Damien now. Victor asks about her interest in the man. What are you getting yourself into? At Nate's place, he hopes Damien's appearance means he's reevaluated his position on his mama, and on him too. Damien isn't sure about all that, but he's been allowing about it. He'd like to talk to his mama alone. Nate has a meeting to get to, and tells them to take all the time they need. Amy assures him she'll be fine. Nate tells Damien he'd like to have a discussion too, before he leaves. Damien nods, you're next on my list. Nate exits, and Damien asks Amy what she expects. What does she want from him? Amy doesn't know what she'd have done with Nate and Audra. Damien tells her that her answer to his question could decide everything going forward. All she wants is what she formerly asked for, your remission. She wants to know that when she says farewell to her son, they're okay again. She'd like him and Nate to get to know each other and perhaps watch for each other. Damien warns that would take further than a couple of days, if it indeed happens right now. Let's just concentrate on you and me right now. Amy nods. Damien could tell her right now that he forgives her, and that he's sorry he left her. Also what? She dies there or in Chicago without him? Him saying he forgives her is cheap. He thinks what she really wants is for him to stay with her until the end and comfort her until she passes. At least be honest with me, Mom. At least give me the verity. Amy would no way ask him to upend his life for her. It would give her comfort for him to be with her at the end, but she wouldn't anticipate it from him. Damien asks how she'd know he was being sincere if he said he forgave her. Amy knows him. Damien says, you knew me. Not so important presently. Amy tells him that when he has children, he'll understand. All she has to do is look in his eyes, and she'll see the verity. You can't break that bond. Tearing up, Damien says that's presumably true. Amy asks if he can find it in his heart to forgive her. She can't understand how they ended up so far piecemeal. What did she do that was so wrong? Damien hollers, you let my father die. Now it feels like she's taken him down each over again. That's why. Amy always suspected her son criticized her for Jackson dying. Damien's not condemning her for the complaint, but for being so cold and detached at the end. Amy argues, that's not what I was doing, but he argues that's what it looked like. You just went on about your life, going on with your life like it was business as usual. Amy can't believe she's hearing this. Damien reveals that he used to skip academy to stay home with his pater. So he was alone. However, Jackson must have to, if he felt her absence. That's my reason. I was just a sprat, Mama. And you left me alone to watch my father die. Amy sighs. Does he want to know why she was pulling herself down every day? Damien nods, yes. Amy tells him, Damien, we didn't have insurance, and that was on your father. He let the policy lapse. So, I had to get an alternate job to pay the bills. Indeed, that wasn't enough. She cries that she wasn't shut off or detached. She did everything she had to do to keep him alive as long as possible. Damien didn't know plutocrat was so tight. Amy says a parent doesn't partake that with a child. She had to be strong for both of them. All Damien wanted was her to be there to clinch them both. Amy cries, I would have fallen piecemeal. I just couldn't. She tells him his father knew the end was coming like she does now. He demanded to know she could keep the family going. Knowing she hurt him because of that decision and that he hates her for it, it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. Damien just remembers her being gone. But he suppositions he was so focused on his pater. He didn't pay attention to what she was going through. He's sorry. Amy's sorry for not being there. Damien can't times of resentment in one discussion, especially with the disclosure that Jackson wasn't his father, and some foreigner named Nathan Hastings was. She didn't need to tell him. Amy couldn't go on with him abhorring her and allowing she didn't watch for Jackson, the man she loved and adored. Damien says, and prevaricated too. Amy asks Damien to try and understand. Damien is trying, but it'll take some time. Amy cries, I do'n't have important time left, honey. Damien is sorry, but that's how it has to be right now. Amy asks him to promise one thing, however, will he tell her in person? Damien nods, yeah, if he can't take these last way with her. I'll do that. Amy asks if she can clinch him. The bone. That you wanted so long agone. Damien reluctantly accepts it. Claire is surprised Kyle would indeed suggest she'd give up on them. Kyle says Victor will hammer down until she can't take it presently. Claire insists that wouldn't be. She reminds him she grew up with someone who controlled her. She didn't escape that captivity to jump into another bone. With her grandfather, however, that's his problem, if he can't embrace this. I'm not going anywhere. Kyle smiles. Victor can only break them up if they allow him to. Neither will give him the satisfaction. They kiss. Summer enters the coffee house, texting her mama again. Kyle, at the counter, asks if everything is okay. Summer says her mama is missing. She and Daniel haven't heard from her in over 24 hours. It's not like her. I'm really spooked. Summer goes into Kyle's arms for a clinch. Claire looks down uncomfortably. Summer apologizes and Kyle tells her, forget about it. He asks if they've called the police. Summer nods, but it's like she just faded. Kyle tells her there could be an innocent explanation. Summer supposes, but the longer she's gone it's just driving me a little crazy right now. Summer joins Claire and Kyle's table, but doesn't want to intrude their date. Kyle says, it's not a date. Summer appreciates him trying to cheer her up about her mama. She asks how regale with the grandparents went. Kyle winces, about as anticipated. But they stood their ground. Victor knows he has no influence over their relationship. Summer warns he always gets what he wants, however, he'll find a way to end it if he doesn't want them together. She thinks Claire must be feeling it sucks to have Victor Newman as a forefather. Not that we ever had to deal with it, she says to Kyle. Am I flashback that rightly? Kyle reminds her that Victor didn't have it out for him also, and he's defensive of Claire. Summer's noticed. He's always known she can look out for herself. Claire can look out for herself too and wouldn't let anyone ruin this. She's happy. Kyle says, "We're happy." Summer heads out, thanking Kyle again. At the door, she pauses and looks back at the couple. At the estate, Lily tells Victor she was just curious about Damien. Winters isn't planning to do business with him. Victor asks, "It's particular?" Lily laughs. She thanks him for the information. Victor's no way known her to be this fugitive. Lily says she learned it from him and Nikki. Victor warns he'll find out. Lily has nothing to hide. Damien joins Nate at the GCAC and tells him that he and Amy talked about some suitable heavy stuff, but he doesn't know if that will fix everything between them. Nate urges him to have another discussion with her. Damien admits they made progress, but he was wishing they no way brought this into his life to begin with. Nate asks, "Do you suppose this was easy for me?" Damien says it's not the same. Nate gets that, but he has no regrets. His mama is a good woman who loves him veritably much that has to count for commodity. Damien concedes her learned effects moment he didn't know ahead. Nate urges him to take the coming step also, it'll bring him nothing and will mean the world to her. Lily arrives at the club and joins Nate and Damien. Nate learns that his family introduced himself to her lately. Damien tells Nate that he hurt him, but he'll need a little further time. Nate says fine, but not too long for egregious reasons. He stands to go check on Amy. The emotional discussion could have taken a risk physically. Damien asks him to let him know that she's okay, and they shake hands. Nate goes, and Damien tells Lily he met with his mama. She asks how it went. He tells her she'll have to agree to have regale with him to find out. Lily agrees. Nate arrives at home and asks Amy how she's feeling. She's not sure. He checks her palpitation and says her heart is contending. She's just exhausted, mentally and physically. I suppose it's over. I don't suppose Damien is going to forgive me. She all but forced him to give her a clinch when he left. Nate says Damien told her about their talk and he didn't get the print he wasn't coming back. He was concerned about her health. He doesn't suppose it's the end at all. He thinks it's the morning of Damien letting go of all that wrathfulness. Amy asks, "Really?" Nate tells her they're near. "Don't give up." She agrees.